Welcome to the deep dive. We are really glad you're joining us today as we tackle some big questions about how government works or sometimes doesn't. Whether you're deep in policy already or just curious about why things are the way they are, we hope this helps you get informed quickly. And yeah, for those tracking, welcome to our fun little study group for PP 5340 Introduction to Public Policy and Management. This is an extra segment digging into the readings from Section 12, Performance Measurement and Management. Today, we're really focusing on insights from Mary Braina Sanger's work, From Measurement to Management, breaking through the barriers to state and local performance.
Yeah, that article is a great snapshot, really, of that push in the early 2000s for, well, making the public sector more modern, more results-focused. And it connects back, about 15 years earlier to the Winter Commission's ideas.
Ah, yes, the Winter Commission. They had that core idea: less red tape, more freedom for managers to actually manage, the trust and lead approach, wasn't it?
Exactly. Trust and lead. It was a big shift in thinking, away from just following rules towards being accountable for, actual results.
A huge shift, swapping compliance for outcomes.
Precisely. The idea was to stop just counting things the government does, the activities, and start actively managing, using that data, aiming for results that people, citizens, can actually see and value.
Okay, so that's our mission today then. Let's unpack the promise, the potential, and also why it seems so darn hard to make it stick at the state and local levels. Let's start with the why. Why should public managers even get into performance measurement? Isn't the old way, the bureaucracy, enough?
Well, in theory, performance measurement tackles three big governance issues. First, accountability. Simple as that. It gives leaders, executives, a way to judge how managers are doing based on data, not just gut feeling. So you can reward success or, well, address failure.
Okay, accountability. Makes sense. What's number two?
Resource management. Or maybe stewardship is a better word. It helps managers see, are we saving money? Are we putting resources where they matter most? How do we plan for the future? Especially when, budgets are tight.
Right, making the best use of taxpayer money. And the third value.
This one's maybe the most ambitious.
Okay.
It's what the source calls the civic value.
Civic value, meaning?
Meaning it's about democracy, about trust. The idea is if you're open about what you're doing, how you're performing, that transparency can actually rebuild citizens' trust in government.
Ah, so it changes the whole relationship. Citizens aren't just recipients of services.
Exactly. They become, and this is a quote, owners, issue framers, co-producers, and evaluators of government. It's a much more active role for the citizen.
That sounds great on paper, but you mentioned historical context.
Yeah, it's crucial. Sanger reminds us this isn't new. Waves of reform, going way back to the progressive era, have pushed for economy, efficiency, transparency, using metrics. The fact that we keep coming back to it shows it's important, but also really, really difficult to get right.
Which leads us perfectly into the reality check. The source is pretty blunt. Progress is uneven, very uneven.
It really is, and we have to start with a big caveat, a research caution the source points out. A lot of what we know comes from officials telling us what they do, self-reporting.
Okay.
And when researchers actually look at the documents, the plans, the reports, sometimes the claims about using performance data are, well, a bit exaggerated.
Wait, so the data about using performance data might be flawed? That feels ironic.
It does raise questions, doesn't it,
Yeah.
about the incentives. But even accounting for that, a pattern is clear. Cities and counties generally seem to be doing more meaningful work with performance management than states are.
Why? Why the difference between cities and states?
Well, a couple of reasons stand out. First, city services are often just more visible, more tangible.
Like potholes, garbage collection.
Exactly. Things that are easier to measure, often.
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, citizens are closer. They see the results or lack thereof every day. They're more likely to hold local officials directly accountable.
Whereas state stuff can be more abstract. Regulations, bigger systems.
Right. Harder to measure, harder to see the direct impact sometimes. And the research bears this out. Most states say they measure performance, but studies show it's often inconsistent, maybe unreliable. And critically, state agency goals often aren't tied to the budget process in a systematic way across the board.
So the link between performance and funding is weak at the state level.
Often, yeah. And public data, often hard to find, or it's out of date. Plus, citizens are rarely brought into the loop on developing measures in states, unlike some city examples.
Okay, so the theory is great, the reality is messy. Let's get concrete. Let's look at those 6 cities the source examined: Phoenix, Portland, Baltimore, Des Moines, San Diego, and Worcester. What did they find?
Well, you can sort of group them into 3 different models, 3 approaches. First, you've got what the source calls the mature professional systems. Think Phoenix and Portland.
Okay, the veterans.
Right. They'd been at it for nearly 2 decades when this research was done,
Mm.
refining systems, benchmarking against other cities, publishing big reports. Very transparent
Sounds like the ideal.
in some ways. But even they weren't perfect. The source notes that how much they actually used performance data for day-to-day management varied a lot between departments. And neither city used performance-based budgeting universally. It wasn't fully integrated everywhere.
And citizen engagement.
Mostly passive, big satisfaction surveys, that kind of thing, not deep involvement. So mature, yes, but still inconsistent in practice.
All right, what's the next model?
The complete opposite, almost. The top-down accountable model. The prime example is Baltimore Citistat, launched around 2000.
Ah, Citistat. That got a lot of attention. Modeled after NYPD's CompStat, right?
Exactly. And that comparison is key. It wasn't just about data. It was about a relentless meeting culture. Mayor O'Malley drove it from the very top. It demanded constant, accurate data broken down geographically. And it involved these intense biweekly public review meetings with department heads on the hot seat.
Intense is right. I remember reading about the consequences.
Oh, yeah. Leadership wasn't messing around. There were clear sanctions. The director basically said, managers comply or they're out.
And people actually lost their jobs.
The source mentions about a 40% turnover rate among top management in the early years. That's serious accountability. Unusually serious.
Wow.
Yeah,
That shows real political will to force change.
absolutely. And it was boosted by their new 311 call center, which fed citizen complaints right into the data used in those high-pressure meetings.
Okay, so we have the mature systems and the top-down system. What's the third model?
The third is more citizen-centric. Think Des Moines and Worcester.
How are they different?
They flipped the script on where the data came from. They focused on getting citizens involved right from the start, often helped by outside funding, like from the Sloan Foundation. They used this tool called ComNet Community Network.
ComNet. What did that do?
It was pretty innovative for the time. They actually trained local citizens to use handheld computers, remember those, to go out and rate neighborhood conditions.
Like report broken streetlights or graffiti.
Exactly. Street conditions, abandoned cars, things like that. Citizens became the data collectors, rating things based on agreed standards.
So citizen data feeding directly into the system.
Right. Linking what citizens cared about directly to what agencies needed to work on. In Worcester, it was interesting because an external watchdog group, the Worcester Regional Research Bureau, kind of drove it and kept score publicly. That added another layer of pressure.
These examples are fascinating. Mature systems, top-down accountability, citizen-driven data. Yet we keep hearing these reforms often fizzle out or just don't deliver. This is the core question, isn't it? Why is it so hard? Why do they fail?
It really is the core question. And the source points to two main obstacles. Interestingly, the technical side isn't usually the biggest problem. It's more human.
Okay, lay them out for us.
The first one is cost and capacity. No big surprise there. Building and running these systems well, especially the really good ones, costs money. It takes significant management time and effort for design, training, constantly tweaking the measures.
And when budgets get cut.
Exactly. Performance management systems are often early victims of budget cuts. The long-term investment gets sacrificed for short-term savings, stopping progress before you even get to the harder stuff.
Which is?
The second barrier, cultural resistance. This is the big one, I think.
Meaning people just don't like change.
It's deeper than that. Traditional bureaucratic culture, focus on following rules, managing inputs, process, it clashes fundamentally with managing for outcomes. Managers can feel threatened. They're used to being judged one way, and now there's this new focus on results, often using data they might not fully trust or understand.
And the fear of sanctions, like in Baltimore.
That creates huge incentives, sometimes subconscious, to resist, to drag your feet, maybe even subtly undermine the system. And there's often a genuine fear managers have. I'm being held accountable for this result, but I don't control all the factors that influence it. Why risk failure? That fear stifles innovation.
That makes total sense. Fear that the data becomes a weapon, not a tool for improvement.
Precisely. So overcoming that cultural inertia is often the toughest part.
So this brings us to a crucial point in the source material. It's not just about measuring performance having the numbers. It's about shifting to performance management, actually using those numbers to change things, to learn, to get better.
Exactly. That's the leap, from measurement to management. And the successful strategies that help make that leap often involve variations of that intense data-driven meeting process we saw in Baltimore. Generic term is performance stat.
So performance stat isn't a specific software, it's more like a management style, a process.
Yeah, it's a leadership and management strategy. It's about regular, frequent meetings where leaders and managers look at timely data, review past performance, check on commitments made last time, and set new, concrete objectives. It creates a rhythm, a cadence of accountability, and, hopefully, learning.
Are there other related strategies?
Yes, the source mentions the balanced scorecard approach, too. The NYC Department of Finance used it effectively. It helps translate the big mission and strategy into, a balanced set of measures. You're not just looking at cost savings.
What else does it track?
Things like results achieved, customer satisfaction, even employee morale and engagement. It gives a more rounded picture of performance, not just the bottom line.
So whether it's performance stat or balanced scorecard, what are the common threads for success? What makes these management-focused systems work?
A few things seem non-negotiable based on the research. First, you absolutely need strong leaders. Leaders who are committed, who champion the mission, and crucially, who are willing to use both rewards and sanctions.
So leadership with teeth.
Pretty much. Without that, the cultural resistance often wins. Second, transparency is key. Making the data public builds trust, holds people accountable. But we have to acknowledge the risk. It can also create pressure to fudge the numbers if the stakes are too high or the culture isn't right.
A double-edged sword there.
It can be. And finally, the system needs built-in ways to learn and adapt. Mechanisms for feedback, for identifying what is working, sometimes called positive deviance, and spreading that innovation. It can't just be punitive.
Okay, let's try to boil this down. If you had to summarize the main lessons from Sanger's research here, what would they be?
I think there are four main takeaways. First, performance measurement is spreading. More governments are doing it.
Yeah.
But actually using it for management and really engaging citizens, that's still lagging behind. The promise isn't fully realized.
Okay, lesson one. Growth in measurement, but lagging in management and engagement.
Second, cities generally seem to be further along, doing more meaningful things than states. And within organizations, the most promising growth seems to be happening at the agency or department level.
Lesson two. Cities beat states, agencies show promise. Got it.
Third, success really hangs on leadership. You need committed leaders who communicate clearly, provide support, but also aren't afraid to hold people accountable with real consequences, positive and negative.
Lesson three. Leadership, leadership, leadership. With consequences.
And fourth, maybe a bit sobering for researchers and policymakers. Our actual knowledge about what really works, why it works, and how well it works across different contexts. It's still pretty limited. We need more rigorous research to truly guide policy effectively.
Lesson four. We still have a lot to learn.
That sums it up pretty well. The potential of performance management is definitely there. But we need to be realistic. Politics, culture, leadership, they matter just as much, maybe more, than having the perfect measurement tool.
So thinking about this from the perspective of, say, our PP 5340 students or anyone trying to make government better, what's the practical implication here?
Well, Sanger ends with a really interesting thought. Maybe the most effective way forward isn't trying to overhaul the entire city or state government at once.
Because that's so complex, so political.
Exactly. Maybe, she suggests, we should focus more effort and research on performance management within specific agencies or departments.
What?
Because at that level, you often find more professional management, clearer goals, maybe less intense political fighting over those goals compared to the whole jurisdiction.
So empower the departments. Focus resources on helping individual agencies succeed with performance management, rather than trying to boil the ocean of City Hall culture change all at once.
It's a provocative idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does real change bubble up from successful departments, or does it have to come from the top down across the board? Something definitely worth mulling over as you think about public policy and management.
Absolutely. A great thought to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into performance measurement and management. We'll catch you next time.